Okay, so welcome everybody to Energy Flow. So let's get started in child's pose. Totally cool if you want to take a different shape from child's pose. It's just one that I usually quite like, just to kind of um, get into my breath and into my body and also get grounded. So child's pose, or you could be laying down or you could be in a seat or wherever you're most comfortable is fine. If you are taking child's pose, you can have your knees nice and wide and your toes together. And just let this be a moment to turn in towards yourself. So maybe taking a big sigh. Or two or three. This being with the earth that is supporting you, the land that you are currently on. For me, a big part of energy flow practice and all of my yoga practices really is tapping into how we are feeling the energy of the moment. So that can include the season, the weather, the moon, and also like what's going on in your life and what's happening in your community. So we take a moment to just really receive how our bodies are absorbing what's going on. And for me, a big part of the practice energetically is like dropping what I don't need and sort of filtering through so that I can keep the parts that I do need to keep with me. And this isn't a cognitive process. We don't have to think about this really rationally. But just being with the breath and feeling into our bodies really allows us to tap into that energy and kind of see where it's going to take us today. So we can do that through a little quiet. Let's do it that way first, and then we'll come into our breath. And if you haven't yet, let's start to find that ujjayi pranayama, that little whispering sound at the back of the throat that comes from a really expansive breath in the diaphragm. So imagine that your ribs are kind of widening and lifting as you inhale. We're just gently drawing in and connecting to the core on the exhale. And you're welcome to stay in your child's pose as long as you'd like. I'm just moving up into cat and cow here. We're kind of aiming towards downward facing dog. So if you're taking cat and cow with me, we're just inhaling into a little back bend. And on the exhale, gathering the belly in, spreading the shoulder blades, curling the spine. You can have your eyes closed for this if you want. And just really think about letting the breath move your body. So that can mean something different every day, again, depending on how you're tapping into that energy. So there could be circles here, there could be side to side movement. Maybe you're already up in downward dog, that's great. So we'll just take about another 5 breaths or 6 breaths, and we'll meet in our downward dog. And when you get to that downward dog, you can spread your fingers nice and wide, have a little bit of a bend in the elbows, soft knees. You can be pedaling your heels out, swaying your hips. And just notice what's going on with your neck and shoulders. Think about the shoulders kind of dropping back into their sockets so that your head can kind of relax. And when you're ready, you can walk your feet up to your hands. And come into a standing forward bend. Feet as wide as you want them, so they could be hips distance or wider, knees bent. You can rest elbows on bent knees or continue just kind of hanging down and exploring that little bit of movement. Intuitive movement, just kind of seeing if you can be in a practice of noticing what your body wants and needs, what your body is saying yes to, and just following that, trusting that. And then we'll rise up. So I'm going to roll up, bending my knees, leaning back into my heels, gathering belly in and slowly curling. You could also bend the knees, look forward, and come up with a nice neutral spine. When you get to the top, just rolling the shoulders onto the back, but don't pin them too much, let them soften. Also soften your knees, so make sure that the knees are not locked, and allow your weight to lean slightly back over your heels. And then just see where your chin rests to the point where your jaw relaxes. So for me, I usually just have to remember to tip my chin up a little bit. Okay, and then let's follow our breath through our sun salutation. So next time you inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale and dive to the earth. Lengthen up halfway. And then step your right foot behind you and bring down your knee. Heart and hands rise, low lunge. And then downward facing dog as you exhale, connect the palms, step back. Come forward to a plank pose. That could be on your knees or off. And lower all the way down if you're coming to your belly. You could also do a little cat and cow there if you don't want to come to your belly. Roll the shoulders back and lift your heart. Cobra. And then downward facing dog from there. Right leg is going to rise to the sky on your inhale. So no rush, just following that breath. And then step the foot through. So it helps to lean a little to the left to step your foot through. You can also grab it and pull it forward, reaching the arms up, low lunge, and then forward fold as you exhale. Lengthen and melt. Bend the knees, rising all the way up, and then diving all the way down again as you exhale. Lengthen halfway, draw your heart forward. Left foot steps back. You could always do a high lunge here if you prefer. Rising up, nice. And then downward facing dog. So we're starting to work with that vinyasa here. You can come forward to plank. You can lower all the way down, or maybe it's a little push up. You're hugging the elbows in and then pulling through into upward facing dog. So the knees are lifted. And then back to your downward dog. Left leg rises on your inhale. And step that through. So I'm leaning, just a little to the right. And then rising up. Nice. And then forward fold to the top of your mat. Lengthen. And melt. Bend your knees, rise all the way up. Bring your hands together to your heart. And just take a little breath there. Forgot to pop the playlist into the chat. You can start it now if you want to. Okay, and join back in when you're ready. Let's inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky. Exhale and fold. Lengthen, draw your heart forward. Right foot back, again, higher low lunge. Inhale to rise. Downward facing dog as you exhale. Inhale, come forward. So this is a chest opening, sort of. Could be, again, cat and cow. Maybe you're doing a little push-up or lowering all the way down. And then the inhale is up dog or cobra or cow. Okay, back to downward dog on your exhale. Catch that inhale, right leg is gonna rise. And bring it through. Inhale, rising up. Forward fold. Lengthen. And melt. And the knees rise all the way up. Exhale and dive all the way down. Lengthen your heart forward. Left foot back, again, high or low lunge. Just a bit of a different feeling there. And downward facing dog. Come forward to plank and lower. Find your back bend, hug those shoulder blades together, and then downward dog. Left leg to the sky on your inhale. Step it through. High or low lunge, inhaling. Forward fold. Lengthen and out. Bend your knees, rising all the way up. Then bring your hands together at your heart. Take a moment again just to breathe and feel. Really nice, you guys. Let's go through one more time. Inhale, reaching your arms up to the sky. Exhale, diving to the earth. Lengthen halfway up as you inhale, nice long belly. And then right foot steps back, high or low lunge. Inhale, rising up, think wide ribs. Beautiful. And then downward facing dog as you exhale. Taking your version of your vinyasa, so coming forward to plank. Maybe you're lowering, maybe you're doing cat and cow there. And pulling through to your back bend, hug those shoulder blades together. Nice. And then downward facing dog from there. Beautiful. Right leg rises on your inhale, so kind of catch that inhale, let the leg float up. Nice. And then step through. Nice, you guys. High or low lunge, finding that shape for yourself. Beautiful. And then forward fold to the top of your mat. That's it. Lengthen and melt. Rising all the way up to standing. And then diving down. Lengthen. Left foot steps back. Finding your lunge. Good. And then downward facing dog. Coming forward, inhaling. Little push up as you exhale, or taking whatever variation works for you. And then pulling through to your back bend. And downward facing dog. Good. Left leg is going to go up to the sky as high as you want. And bring it through. Beautiful. And then inhaling to rise. Nice job, you guys. And then forward fold. Lengthen. And melt. Bend your knees, rise all the way up. And bring your hands together at your heart. And just take a moment again to feel and breathe. Good. Okay. Let's inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky. And then as you exhale, make a little cactus with your arms and sink back into a chair pose. So you've got a neutral spine. So you're sticking your bum out a little bit, but the belly's drawn in, and it just doesn't have to be too low there, okay? We're gonna inhale, and then as you exhale, draw the hands down, palms face up, and then they come towards you as you next inhale. So we're doing a little loop with the elbows. So they open, and then draw together. So the pinkies are coming together, and then the hands face you, and then open. Yeah, so just feel what's going on with your shoulders in this funny little circle. You could be higher or lower in your chair, and you could also be coming in and out. So just want you to feel that kind of shoulders drawing down. Let's do one more. Okay, nice. And then we'll stand up, reach the arms up. The hands can still be facing back. And then we'll interlace them around behind the back. Soften the knees, pull the shoulders together, and lift your heart. Okay, so keep the belly strong and the lower back long, so it doesn't have to be a huge back bend. We're just getting a little bit of space into the shoulders. Okay, and then we're just going to soften that hands to the hips and just notice how your shoulders feel right now. Okay, lift up your 10 toes, spread them apart, place them to the earth, lean left and pick up your right foot. Hold on to it with your right hand. And if you can, hold on to it with your left hand too. You could also have a strap around your foot, okay? So we've got that same kind of feeling of shoulders onto the back that we just had with the fingers interlaced, but we're also going to draw the tailbone down a little bit, flare the toes into the hand or hands, and point the knee down to the earth. So this should feel like a pretty good quadricep stretch at this point. We're working, of course, with our balance, so sometimes it's nice to be close to a wall. Yeah. Good, you guys. Okay, so we've got a hold of the foot behind us. And then you can stay right here just working with that quadricep stretch, or you can start to kick your foot into your hands a little bit and maybe dip into a slight back bend. So you can bend your standing leg a little bit more and think about tipping your heart forward. So it's like a little bit more of a symmetrical dancer's pose. So you're not going to go super deep into it, but we can get this nice opening here. And think of kind of using the foot to help you open the chest. So good, you guys, you're doing great. Okay, inhale, and then we'll step back into a high lunge and we'll interlace the fingers around behind the back. So don't be afraid to use that strap if you're more comfortable with the strap with the hands facing forward, okay? So let's bend the back knee a little bit. Hug the inner thighs together, draw the tailbone down, and then start to work that leg towards straight as you push the hands towards that back foot. And again, just work with that opening of the chest kind of feeling here. As the hands pull apart, the elbows squeeze together and the shoulders start to externally rotate so they come to a little bit together. Yeah, and you can explore a bit of a back bend here if you want to. You don't have to. You can think of it as just a chest opening. But if it feels good to really tip your heart to the sky, it's okay to do that, right? As long as it doesn't hurt. I like to have my back heel really high up off the ground. So I'm kind of digging the ball of my foot into the earth. It's not the only way to do it. It's just the way that I like to do this one. Okay, and then inhale, release your hands again to your hips and land your back foot completely to the mat so that the toes are turned just a little bit off to the right and the whole sole of the foot is down. So it's a relatively short stance up here, okay? Square your hips to the front of the room. If you need to widen your feet, go for it. Hug those elbows back and this time we'll fold forward. So stick your bum out, a little bit of a bend in your standing leg, bring your hands down. You might want to put them on blocks. If they'll reach the floor, that's great. If you don't have blocks and the floor is a bit far, I actually like the hands up really high into the hip crease so that you're not putting any pressure on the knee, but you still got a little bit of stability there, okay? So let's play with that, lengthening the heart on your inhale. And as you exhale, you might dip in a little. And if that felt good, we can do it a couple more times. So we're just lengthening a little bit and then dipping in a little bit. So don't worry about how far you're going or what this looks like. Just think of your breath giving you a little bit of rise and fall. Nice. Okay. So from here, I'd love for you to get your hands on the ground or blocks or something if you can. And then start to walk your hands over to the upper right corner of the mat or the room and kind of pull your left hip back and down a little bit as you sort of melt your heart to the earth. So you're on this funny angle. Just turn forward for a second here. So it kind of looks like this. So it's a little bit of a angled way of being in pyramid pose. I really like this one because it gets into the hamstring, even the IT band a little bit, and sort of the side body and the chest too, a little bit of a different way. So good. And then we'll gently walk the hands back through center and we'll step back into a downward facing dog. Now from here, you might want to pedal your heels out. You might want to take a little rest in child's pose for a moment. Okay, and we're going to do a little bit of work here with the core, essentially. So we're going to do a couple of rolling planks. So you can do this on your knees. It would look like this. You'd have your hands just a little farther forward than they would be for hands and knees. You draw belly in, curl forward, and come just sort of as far into that plank as feels comfortable and safe for you. And then we're just going to press back. Okay, if you're comfortable doing this as a full knees off the ground plank, we start in downward dog, we lift up the heels, and it's the exact same thing. We're just curling the belly in and coming forward, shoulders over the wrists, and then pulling belly in and rolling back. Okay, so let's try for 5. Maybe 1 is enough for you. Maybe 3 feels like the right spot. Okay, you don't have to do the full 5, but let's just see how it goes. And the thing I want you to focus on above all is really drawing that belly in and up. Okay, so I don't really care so much if you go all the way into the plank or whatever, but I just want you to be feeling those deeper core muscles doing their thing. I think that's 4. You can count with your own breath. I'm going to do 1 more. Okay, and then we'll do some push-ups, like actual push-ups. So I'm going to do this on my knees. You can do it on your knees or not. And I'm going to take my hands a little bit wider than the mat, so they're just slightly off the mat. I'm in that plank shape. The shoulders are on the back, and the elbows are going to go out to the right and to the left. So it's a little bit more of a classic push-up than a chaturanga. So I'm looking forward, and the thing about this is you can do a push-up 1 centimeter. Okay, it doesn't have to be that low. Let's just see how it goes. You're going to inhale. Exhale, come down some amount, and then push away from the floor. Again, we'll try for 5. You can do as many of those 5 as you want. 3, 2, and 1. Really nice. We'll come all the way to the belly. Again, if you're not on your belly today, you can take child's pose actually. Let's take the hands down beside the hips and just take a little moment. Okay, and we're going to do a locust here. So I'll explain that in a second, but just if you're not on your belly, you can come to sitting or standing on your knees, and you're just going to interlace your fingers behind you and take that same shape that we did in standing. If you are on your belly, we're going to do that as a locust. So interlacing those fingers, again, you can use a strap or a belt if you prefer, if your shoulders are a bit tighter. If you don't have anything, you can just have palms down, or hook thumbs is nice as well. Point those toes, kneecaps lift, draw belly in, hug the elbows and lift the heart. Think long through the chest, long through the neck. Okay, inhale, and then we'll gently release and just take a little rest wherever you are. And then aim yourself back to downward facing dog. So you can do that through a child's pose if you want, through a cat and cow. Just making your way. Okay, let's take the right leg up to the sky. You can roll your hips open and bend your knee. And we're going to do some hip circles here. So we're going to stay in downward dog, or you could do this on hands and knees if downward dog isn't working for you. Then we're going to inhale, and as you exhale, bring the knee just in towards the chest, keep everything else the same, and then open the knee to the right, and then circle back up to the sky. So we're just activating those outer hip muscles a little bit. We're just going to take 3 of these nice, juicy hip circles. And then step on through to warrior 2. So spin the back heel down, reach the arms up and open. So make sure your stance is long enough that you've got your knee over your ankle. Tailbone is long and pelvis is level-ish. So the back hip lowers just a little bit. Front heel is in line with the back arch. And then once again, I'm going to ask you to link your hands around behind your back. So interlacing fingers, hooking thumbs, or grab that prop if you're using a prop. Okay, so hug the shoulders together, get nice and long through the chest. And then we're going to straighten the front leg. Okay, keep a little bit of a bend in the knee here. We're coming into triangle, so you can shorten your stance a little bit if you need to, but we're gonna tip that right hip slightly back and come forward still with the hands linked around behind us. So it's a little bit more of a balancing triangle, so you might not go super far into it. You certainly don't have to. Think of pressing your fist towards your back heel. I'm just gonna show you from behind so that you can kind of see what I'm gonna do next here. So just take a couple more breaths here, just getting that nice long side waist, open chest. And then I'm gonna bend my elbows and try to place my hands to my hip crease. Okay, and I might release that left hand so that it can kind of tuck into the hip crease and help roll my hip back. This is gonna help me roll my shoulder back as well. Then I'm gonna tuck my chin in and I'm gonna release a little bit of the weight of my head so that I can get this lovely neck stretch right here. My right hand is just kind of pressing into my left. If that makes sense, you could still have the fingers interlaced if that works better for you, or just let the hands go if this isn't working for you, okay? Nice, so just really allowing that left shoulder to roll back. Okay, and then we're gonna transition from here into side angle. So that means bend your front knee even more, and then go ahead and allow your right elbow to rest on your thigh. Your left hand might stay in your hip crease. If that feels okay for you, stay there. It's the exact same thing. We're rolling that shoulder back and just trying to get that nice long neck. Okay, if it's not working for you here, hand on hip is great. You might find you need to lengthen your stance a little bit from here. And if you want to take this into a little bit more of a hip opening shape, you can turn your gaze so that you're looking down, just neutral neck. Bring your right hand to the inside of the leg. And this is actually a half bind right here. You might want to explore a full bind if that's something that is happening for you today that you want to do. Okay, or you might just be like, nah, I don't think so. And that's fine too. So good, you guys. Keep breathing wherever you are. Okay, one more inhale, and then look down if you haven't. Release that left hand. Take it all the way off your mat to the left and spin your back foot. Just take the knee all the way down, actually. Yeah, and then your right arm can open up to the sky and you can take this nice open chest on this side. Then, if you want to, you can lift up the back knee. Totally optional there. Inhale, and then let's gently release that, bring the hands down, and we'll step forward to the top of the mat. Lengthen up halfway. Exhale, fold, and then just take a moment to let that go. So you might want to shake your head a little bit. You might want to bend one knee at a time. And just take a nice slow journey to rise up. So I'm going to roll up myself. You could sweep up if that feels more comfortable for your back. Just giving yourself a little bit of time to find standing. Collect the shoulders onto the back, but then soften them. Knees are soft, so you've got that little bit of a bend in the knees, and my tendency is to kind of be here. So I've really been working at just allowing my pelvis to rest over my heels and letting that just kind of lengthen my lower back. So everybody's different, so feel free to kind of explore it for yourself. But where is the place where you feel like you're standing with less effort? Good. Okay, lift up your toes. Spread them apart, press them down, lean right, pick up your left foot, hold it with your left hand, and maybe also your right hand. So you could think about interlacing them. You don't have to. You could just be holding the edges of the leg, the foot. Hug the inner thighs together, draw the tailbone down a little bit, and hug the shoulders together. So it is a quadricep stretch. That's my major intention with this particular one, a little bit of balancing as well. But it's also kind of a nice chest opening. We can allow the foot to help us with that. So we're working with balance here. So looking at the ground or something that's not moving. Yeah. And really noticing if it's your lower back getting all of the stretch. It's totally fine to back bend a little bit, but think about your sternum bone being what's lifting. I was talking before about being in pandemic posture all the time, which I feel like I constantly am in. I have to remind myself to lift my heart because it's kind of my heart that's getting tired, I guess. Yeah, good. And then if you haven't already, you can start to maybe open up a little bit, press the heart even more forward, dipping your weight a little bit forward. I find bending the standing leg is the key to this for me. Okay, and then we're going to slip the foot out of the bind, step back into a high lunge, and you might have your fingers already interlaced or you might re-interlace them. Then we'll bend the back leg, square the hips, draw the tailbone down, and then re-straighten that back leg as you work into that opening of the chest. Really nice, everybody. Sternum bone lifting, so good. And again, I like my back heel really super high up. So that just kind of works for me. I find I just get a little more energy into that back leg when I'm doing that. Okay, inhale, and then just release the hands to your hips. Step that back foot in a little bit, land it. And we've got this pyramid shape. So the feet are just regular hips distance apart. Back toes are turned a little bit in. Okay, keep that heart nice and open and then begin to fold forward and let your hands come down, if possible, onto the floor or blocks, or you might have your hands up at your thigh. Just make sure you're not locking your knee in any of those positions. And then we can play with a little bit of rise and fall. So as you inhale, you're drawing your heart forward and up. And as you exhale, just melting a bit. And you can close your eyes. So it's really not about what this looks like or how far you're going, but just imagine that your spine could lengthen, almost like light or air kind of running through the spine on your inhale. And as you exhale, it's just deepening, softening towards the earth. Okay, and then from here, we can try this little bit of a side variation. So if you're comfortable, if you've got your blocks or your hands, walk them over to the left corner of your mat or beyond. Melting, oh, that side, yeah, that's the one I need. Melting the heart back towards the leg and just drawing your right hip back a little bit. So there's not a lot of weight in your hands. They're just kind of supporting you here. You're kind of pulling your weight with your hips a little bit to the right and a little bit back. You could relax your head. So good. And then we'll gently come back through center. Step back into your downward dog. You might want to take a moment to pedal your heels out here. You could also run through a vinyasa, your variation, whatever is working for you today around that. Okay, and then we're going to make our way all the way onto our backs from here. Don't worry, I know we have a second standing side to do. So I'm going to come forward to plank pose, lower all the way to my belly, and then flip over. You could also walk your legs through or come down on your side. However you want to come down is great. We're going to do our little core. We're going to sneak in our core right here. So laying on the back, place your hands so that your middle fingers are on your hip points and your thumbs are on your low ribs. Keep your back nice and neutral, so we're not curling or arching. We're just going to keep it neutral, and then inhale, and as you exhale, draw in your pelvic floor and imagine those 4 points trying to get closer together. So we're just engaging the core essentially. Okay, inhale. And as you exhale, extend your right leg out along the mat and then bring it back in. And then the left leg and bring it back in. So I love this because it's so good for just really integrating the core. So we're all going to start in this place. This is a great one for pregnancy, great for postpartum, great for sore lower back, great for building ab strength. It's just a really, really great one. So I'm just going to give you some options to add on to it if you're comfortable and you want to. So option one, you can lift your shoulder blades up off the mat. So that's just going to add your upper abdominals a little bit. Okay, option two, you can stay in that first spot, except as the leg goes straight, you're going to actually lift it up and then place the foot down on the mat. And then the opposite leg is going to go long. It's going to lift and place the foot on the mat. So we're adding a little bit of psoas here. So the leg straightens and then it lifts all the way up. And you could do that with or without your shoulder blades on the floor. So the sort of max intensity that we've got working here would be shoulder blades lifted and working into this straightening and then lifting the leg. Okay, so just exploring where the shape is that works for you. And works for you is, where do I feel like I've got a bit of challenge? I'm feeling some work in my abdominal region, but it's not harming me. I'm not getting stressed out. And I'm not seeing my belly kind of pop up. I'm really working with the belly drawing in and down. So those 4 points are drawing together the whole time. Yeah. A little bit of concentration, right? Depending on where you are. And again, we want to kind of work to that place where we're just hitting a bit of fatigue. So I'm going to keep going for 2 more each side. If you're feeling like, yeah, I'm good, that's fine. Just working to that place where you've got a bit of work, that's where the strengthening happens. This is my last one. And last on the left. And relax. So I'm taking soles of the feet together, knees open wide. You could also do knees together, feet wide, and just take a couple breaths to really be in your belly, soften, let go. And some of you might like to take this into happy baby. Knees wide, soles of the feet up to the sky, and just rocking a bit from side to side. I just really like happy baby after core. I find that they go really well together. Beautiful. And then we'll release the legs, give them a little shake. And then we're going to come back into our downward dog. So again, depends on how you got in and where you want to be. But I'm just going to straighten my legs, roll over, and then I'm going to press back to downward dog from there. Yeah. And I'm just going to offer a vinyasa. It might feel nice to rinse that out with the core. So if you want to come with me through vinyasa and come to plank, lowering, and then pulling through to a back bend. And returning to downward dog, or you could do this from hands and knees. Left leg is going to rise to the sky. And again, we're keeping downward dog. So we're just going to move from the hip. So the knee comes into the chest, opens to the left, and then back up to the sky. Just 3 of these, nice and conscious. Three. And then we'll step through to warrior 2. Okay, so knee over the ankle, hips leveling, back leg is straight. And again, we can interlace those fingers. Maybe take the other thumb on top to it so it feels a little bit funny. Hug the elbows together. And so we're thinking about opening the chest without necessarily back bending here. So we're not bending into like a huge bend here. We're keeping the lower back pretty neutral, but we're just opening the chest. So good, everybody. Okay, and then we'll straighten the front leg. And we're going to play with this triangle. So we're just leaning forward a little bit. Got a bit of a bend in the knee, and we're not going too far. We want to be in a place where we can sustain it, right? So kind of see where that is for you. We're just pressing the fist towards the back heel. Working with a little bit of obliques here. And then we're going to take that bind just around the hip. Okay, the fingertips may come into the crease. They may not. Think of rolling the shoulder onto the back, tucking the chin in a little bit, and then releasing some of the weight of the head. So there should be a pretty nice neck stretch that you get there. And if this bind or half bind isn't working for you, just see what does work for you. You can absolutely have your hand on your hip and just work wherever you are. You're just kind of working that shoulder back. Okay, and then we can take this into side angle. So we're bending into that front leg. The back leg might inch back a bit farther, and you could try keeping this half bind with the same quality, nice long side body, playing with a bit of a release into the neck. If that starts to feel like too much, just looking down. Okay. Again, if the half bind isn't working for you, don't worry about it. And your fingers may or may not be anywhere close to the crease. That doesn't matter. Just finding that opening in the shoulder is great. And wherever you are, think about that sternum bone. Just pull it forward a little. Nice. Good, everybody. And if this is feeling good, that's great. You can stay. If you want to work with a little bit more hip opening, you could bring the left hand down on the inside of the leg, keeping the half bind, or maybe even finding the hands linking underneath the thigh. But even there's a tendency to kind of tip down. Still think about heart forward and rolling that shoulder onto the back. If you're doing a half bind, I would have a neutral neck. It's quite hard to sort of relax the head as you're trying to work into that as well. So just see what works for you here. Beautiful. And then look down if you haven't. Unwind, release your right hand to the outside of the leg and let your back knee come all the way down. And then turn open into a nice open twist here. So the left arm rises to the sky. And if you want to lift up your back knee, you can. It's just a little bit of a different feeling there. You can keep it down too if that feels better for you. Just a nice little release from all that binding. So good. Inhale and then gently release the hands and step softly up to the top of your mat. Lengthen halfway. Exhale, melt. Just take a moment to feel that. Okay, option one, you can take one last vinyasa. You can step back to downward dog and flow through if you want to. Option two, take a squat, which is where we'll meet. So I'm just going to take my feet nice and wide, and I'm sinking my hips down. You could sit on a block. You could put something underneath your heels if your heels are what's tight. You could sit right down on the floor. So this should be painless in the knees. Okay, if you're having any knee issues, please sit down. And then we're just going to take a little neck moment here as well. So the thing I want you to think about is squeeze the glutes a little bit so that the knees can open. Pull the shoulders down the back, tuck your chin in, and then allow your chin to come forward. And then roll it to the right. And then forward. And roll it to the left. And then gently down. And then you can sit on your back. And wash your knees from side to side. Okay, so I wanted to offer a little inversion moment. So I think here's how I'll do that. So I want to play a little bit with handstand. I like handstand because there's so many steps you can take into it. You don't have to go into the whole thing. It can sound a little bit scary. But I'm just going to offer it for a few breaths. We won't spend too much time with it. But if you're feeling like, no, I don't think so, you can take child's pose or Viparita Karani, that's legs up the wall with or without a wall. So you could have a little prop under your bum and just get the benefits of the inversion without obviously the stress on your shoulders and so on. Okay, if you want to try a handstand, I'm just going to turn my camera so that you can see my wall. You can come into this with me. It's kind of a fun one. And we've been doing so much opening for the shoulders that maybe this will feel good. We'll see. So I'm in downward dog. Okay. I've got about a foot away from the wall, between the wall and my hands, and I'm really working my finger pads into the earth. Micro bend in the elbows, not a full bend, not locked. Okay. And I'm working with that little bit. Remember when we were doing this before? That's what I want to feel in my shoulders, is that external rotation. Okay. So that could be my handstand. Okay, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm going to walk my feet a little closer until my shoulders come over my wrist, and I'm going to look forward. So I imagine that my gaze and my hands are making a tripod on the ground. And again, I really want those shoulders deep into their sockets. Then I could lift a leg, and that's awesome. That's perfect. Okay, or I could kick a couple times with the bottom leg and see if I can come up towards the wall. So the shoulders need to be really deep in there so that you can straighten them. And we're looking down. Okay. And then the extended leg stays straight, the bottom leg, little kicks. Yeah, ideally with a wall. If you don't have a wall, you could do an accidental backwards flip. So if you don't have a wall, but you want to play with handstand anyway, you can. I'm going to show you a way to do that in case you want to. So here's how you would do that without a wall. You're just not going to go all the way up. So you're not going to think about trying to get both legs up. But you can kick with your bottom leg, but hug it in. So the knee never goes above your hips. And that means you've got your weight behind you, so you can come down and you won't flip over, probably, unless you kick really, really hard. Yeah. Nice, you guys. Awesome, Ty. Okay, I'm going to give you one little tip about handstand, and then we're going to meet back up together. Two little tips, just two. So when you're kicking, you want to imagine that your shoulders are the only hinge. Your hips are too, but you want to imagine that your shoulders can hinge, but the rest of your body is really connected to itself, okay? So sometimes when we go into handstand, we really have this idea that we're kicking with our legs, which we're not. I mean, obviously you think you are, but you're not kicking with your legs. You're kicking with your psoas. Another way of saying that is imagine you're kicking with your back ribs. So I want to extend. I want to take this extended leg and plug it in. So my whole body is a straight line, except my shoulders. Okay, so watch what that looks like. I'm going to bend my standing leg, but everything stays like one line. So I'm not kicking with my hip all over the place. I'm so connected that my hips actually are not moving. Just my shoulders are. If that didn't make sense, feel free to ask a question. I'm going to give you a couple more breaths to play with this. And the shoulders are so deep into their sockets that they can move easily. A little trick for me with that is hugging my hands a bit together. Yes, Ty, you got it. Nice. Beautiful. Okay, when you are ready, let's meet laying on our backs. Let's meet our friends laying on our backs. If you're on a wall, you might just move away from it a little bit so that your feet can come down. But before we do anything else, let's reach our arms up and just circle our wrists a few times, especially if you were just doing handstand. Obviously, your wrists are going to feel it a lot because that's like what's holding you up. So just some nice circles. And everybody benefits from this circle, really. Okay, and then place your elbows down beside your body and place the soles of your feet on the mat. Personally, I like outer hips distance apart. Classically, it's sit bone distance. But, you know, I'm the teacher, so, so I get to teach what works for me. Just being aware that everyone's body is different. So listen to yourself before you listen to me. So the feet are parallel, and if you do still have a little cushion under your bum, just slide it off to the side. Press your elbows down and apart. Hug the shoulder blades together. Engage the core, but don't overly tuck your tailbone. Lift up your bum. Hug the inner thighs a bit together and think about trying to push the floor forward with your feet so that your sternum bone comes towards your chest. You can stay here, or you can take that same shape we've been working with today, interlacing your fingers around under your body and use the length of your arms to support you in your bridge. Keep hugging the inner thighs together. Imagine the knees and the chest are trying to get away from each other. So good. And then gently release down onto your back. Take a breath, just soften the belly. Whew. Okay, if you have it in you, let's try that again. So placing the elbows again beside the ribs, push them down and apart. Feet are hips distance or so. Yeah, and then push into your elbows, lift up. Push the floor forward so that your chest rolls towards your chin. Good, hug those inner thighs a bit. Nice. This time, try reaching for the edges of your mat with your hands, and then try to pull the mat apart with your hands. Sometimes I find that feels so good. So literally gripping the mat flesh, like with your hand. That's it. Good. Yeah, and Ty, can you push the floor forward a little bit more with your feet? So it's like you're trying to push the floor away from you with your feet. There you go, that's it. Yes, exactly, you got it. Nice. If you're feeling it, you're optional to take wheel. We're not gonna overdo that, but if you wanna take your hands beside your ears, hug the elbows in and press up, you can. I'm good on wheel for today, so optionally if it's in your practice and you love it. Otherwise, we're good. You can come down and rest. Let your hands flop or rest on your belly. You can let your knees fall together or apart and just take some nice spacious breaths into your belly. And then go ahead and draw those knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a nice little rock from side to side. You could return to happy baby if you want to, if that's a nice pose for you today. I find that it's very nice after back bends too. Just a little reset for the lower back and hips. Okay, and then actually keep your left leg in happy baby, step your right foot to the ground, and then straighten that right leg. If this is too much, hold your left shin instead of your foot, so you're in Apanasana. Okay, and then hold on to your knee if you're not, so release your foot if you're in happy baby, and just take that knee all the way across your body into as much of a twist as you like. Okay, if it's feeling like a little bit too much of a twist, you can have your two knees together and put something in between them, take a nice simple supine twist, or you could even take a nice wide windshield wiper twist, which I liked when I was pregnant. It's just sometimes nice to have a little more space for the belly. But if that compressive twist is feeling good, some people really love this one knee twist, so feel free to try that if it feels good. Okay, and then come back through center, but you're going to take that left ankle onto the right thigh and hug in. So we're transitioning into thread the needle. So the left foot is flexed. Good idea to flex the right foot too. And we're just getting a little bit of opening into the hips here. You can rock from side to side or just be still. And at this point in the practice, the belly is supported because you're laying on the ground. So it's okay to breathe into the belly to really soften the breath. It doesn't have to be ujjayi here. Again, just kind of feeling what your energy is doing at this point. And then softly unwind and you can return to happy baby. Hold your right foot and extend your left leg long onto the mat in front of you. Or if that's not working, just hold your knee. So this shouldn't feel like really intense and challenging. We're cooling down now, so I want you to find a place that feels quite nice for you. And this is a lovely pose for lower back as well. Okay, and then let's take it into a twist. So you can release your foot if you've still got the happy baby, and just take that right knee all the way across your body. So you're aiming it towards the floor, but you don't have to touch the floor. Okay, don't feel like that's the goal. And if that feels a little uncomfortable or too compressed, just knees together is great, or this nice wide windshield wiper twist is lovely as well. Just finding the one that feels right for you for today. And then gently unwind back to center, take that right ankle onto the left thigh, and we're transitioning into thread the needle. So you can hold on to your left leg by putting your right hand into the window between the legs, or your foot could be on the floor. If you're not hugging in, that's fine. Again, sometimes it's nice to rock from side to side. Sometimes it's nice to be in stillness. Usually I like rocking, but today I'm finding that stillness is more where I'm at. And there's really no right or wrong with that. It's just what feels right for you today. And then let's gently slip out of that and take either happy baby or just hold the knees wide and rock them side to side. So just kind of coming out of this shape. And then when that feels complete for you, you can release your legs and just give them a nice little shake. And then we're coming into Shavasana. So classically, Shavasana is laying flat on the back, but you could have a bolster under your thighs. You could put layers on and adjust it how you like it, but Shavasana is also great as legs at the wall, as laying on the side, as laying over a bolster. There's no wrong way so much as just where's most comfortable for you today. If you are laying on your back, it's just going to offer something here. You can interlace your fingers around behind the back of your neck, and just using the strength of your arms, lift your head up and just lengthen the back of your neck. And you can rock it a little bit from side to side or roll it a little bit from side to side. So it's just a little bit of a neck release before Shavasana that should feel relatively simple. So the head is heavy in the hands. Just a nice little stretch there. And then you can kind of take that long neck and just lay it on the ground. Release your hands, and that might be perfect, or you might need to nod or shake a little bit just to find where is that place where your jaw relaxes. And take a nice deep breath and receive. So taking a moment to notice how you feel. And if what you're feeling is that you want to stay longer and you have the time to do that, you're more than welcome to stay. Otherwise, we can start to deepen the breath. And bring some small movements into the toes and fingers. Stretch out. Draw the knees in and gently roll over to one side. And then softly press yourself up to a seat. You could have your hands together at your heart or over top or wherever feels right for you. And just take a moment to bow your mind, your hands, your heart, your breath, your body, the energy that's moving through you, honoring and acknowledging whatever it took for you to get here to your yoga practice. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our yoga. Honoring the sacredness of the land that we practice on. Thank you for sharing your practice.